Alright, in this video we're going to take a look at it as the 2015 exam paper question, and we looked at it in class and we saw that there was a long way of doing it and a very short way of doing it. So I'm going to show you the nicer way and neater way of doing this now. So what I would do is, instead of filling in the values which they've told us here, Z2 and Z3, instead of introducing the complex numbers, I'm going to do all of my manipulations first and then fill them in at the end. So the first thing that I would do is to find the common denominator here. So the easiest way to get the common denominator is to multiply them both together. So my common denominator, if I don't change anything at all about the left hand side here, so I'm not going to change anything there. We're looking to find Z1, so I'm not going to change that. But on this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be introducing the common denominator, which is going to be Z2 multiplied by Z3. Now, if I change the denominator by multiplying by Z3, I must also do the very same thing to the top. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by Z3 so that I don't change the value of that fraction. I'm then going to have the same thing over here, 1 all over Z3. And I'm going to change that to have the common denominator here, which is the two of them multiplied together. And that's what we have. Now, tidying that out, what I can write is I can write that that's 2 all over Z1. I've not changed anything about that, so I keep as much as I can the same. And then on this side, what I'm going to have is Z3. So I'm going to have Z3, and then that's going to be all over Z2, Z3. So that's all over Z2, Z3. And actually, I can write that as one long fraction because they both have the same denominator now. So I'm actually going to write them and save myself some time and write them over Z2, Z3 because they've got a common denominator now of that. So I'm going to say plus 1 by Z2 is going to be plus Z2. And now what I have is a fraction equal to a fraction. I want to not deal in fractions, it's not really ideal. So what I'm going to do is multiply up by Z2, Z3 and multiply up by Z1, which you would have probably done in primary school or heard of as cross multiplying. But really what you're saying is, how do I undo a divide? I multiply both sides. So I'm going to get on this side 2 multiplied by Z2, Z3. So the product of Z2 by Z3. And then we're going to have that is going to equal to Z1 multiplied by Z2 plus Z3. So I'm just going to copy and paste that to speed it up a little bit. And this is what we have inside the brackets there. So we've got this scenario. And at this stage, now that I have, well, I would even go further. I could go further. I could actually say divide across by this guy, couldn't I? So I could actually get Z1 totally on its own first. So I was going to say that we could have subbed in at that point, but I could actually do one more step before I do that. So I'm going to have my 2 Z2 all over Z3. If I actually divide that by Z2 and Z3 added together, then I will get Z1 on its own. So what I've done there is divide both sides by this. So I have a formula for calculating Z1 very quickly here. So I'm going to have 2 multiplied by Z2, which we said at the very beginning, they told us in the question was 2 plus 3i. So 2 plus 3i, multiply that by Z3, which we are told is 3 minus 2i. So 3 minus 2i. That's what we have. And then it's all over Z2 and Z3 added together. So Z3 went first. So let's stick with the same value. So 3 minus 2i plus Z2. So we're going to have plus Z2, which is 2 plus 3i. Tidying all that out then, what are we going to get? So that again is to find Z1 for us, right? So Z1 was the goal of this question. So we're working our way towards that. So we've Z1 then is going to be equal to 2 multiplied by, now if I multiply that out, I'm going to get 6, I'm going to get minus 4i, I'm going to get 9i, and I'm going to get minus 6i squared. On the bottom, I'm going to get, well, if I add them, I'm going to get 5, and I'm going to get plus I. So this works out to be 2 by 6, and then that's going to work out to be, so if we tidy these two out, if I group them together, I'm going to get plus 5i. And then remember, I squared is minus 1. So I'm going to substitute in instead, I'm going to put in minus 1 there. And I've got 5 plus I. And so I have Z1 is equal to 6 minus, so that becomes plus. So that's actually going to become 12. So 2 by 12 plus 5i on the top line, and then on the bottom line I have 5 plus I. If I multiply out that 2 then, what I'm going to get is Z1 is equal to 24 plus 10i all over 5 plus I. And we should know at this stage that we cannot have a complex number on the bottom. So what we must do is multiply the top and the bottom by the conjugate. And if I do that, what I'm going to get out is 24 multiplied by 5. So 24 by 5 is 120. So I have 120 minus 24i plus 50i minus 10i squared all over, that's going to be 25 plus 5i minus 5i minus I squared. So taking our time with this, then we're going to have 120. That's going to be minus 24 plus 50 is 26. So plus 26i. And then we're going to have minus 10. And as we said, I squared is something that works out nice and simple as minus 1. And on the bottom, we've 25 plus 5i minus 5i. Those sum to 0. And we're going to have 25 minus, and we said I squared was minus 1. So simplifying that out, we're going to have 120 plus 26i plus 10 all over, and we're going to have 25 minus, so I'm going to have 26. So it's going to be plus 1, so 25 plus 1, 26. Tidying this out further, we're going to get 130 plus 26i all over 26. So we're nearly there now. Remember that a complex number is made up of two parts, the real part and the imaginary part. So we must always separate it out into the real part and the imaginary part. And if you tidy that out, what you'll actually get is 130 divided by 26 is nice, and it's 5. And 26 divided by 26, that gives us 1. So we get 1i. So Z1, all that hard work led to a really nice answer at the end, which was 5 plus I. So the trick there, the easier way to do it, was to manipulate the whole thing before we even decided to substitute it in. That was the key to getting this in the nicest, quickest format.